Hello, everyone. It is approximately 5:45 in the afternoon on April 30th. And with this video, I wanted to discuss racial issues and just kind of bring up a few thoughts that I have regarding racial issues, that being white supremacy, racism, institutional racism, or just even some of the fears and phobias that people may have regarding the issue of race, especially as it's affecting us in America during this time. And there are a lot of people who, over this past year, have experienced a lot of emotion, a lot of thought-provoking thoughts, questions, things that have kind of popped up into their life. And so we want to be a help, and we want to be an advocate for those people, with those people, as it relates to race. In addition to this discussion, I just want to footnote that there is a very wonderful book that I've written called White Fragility and the Subconscious Mind. That book is available on lulu.com, lulu.com, and also available on amazon.com. Sometimes you'll also find it available on other platforms like Barnes and Noble or Walmart. So just check around and see where that can be found for you. It is kind of a sister book in a way to the book by Dr. Robin DiAngelo, who coined the phrase white fragility and wrote a book about it. But with myself and kind of coming up with that title and writing that book, it was my experience over the years of dealing with racial issues, with friends that I have who are white, who hear from me often, and also, from experiences that we might have, say, for example, on Facebook with people who, leave comments and things. It's a platform where I believe many times discussions can be had. So instead of just confronting it 10,000 times on 10,000 Facebook posts or what have you, I just decided to bring it all into a concise platform. The book, which is again called White Fragility and the Subconscious Mind. So if you guys have an inclination, by all means, pick one of them up and share it. So in creating this video today, I've really kind of been inspired to do it just because I have watched different programs or, again, seen different things on TV, whether it be CNN or, or just even, the trial that we recently had for George Floyd, his murder, and the trial for Derek Chauvin, who was found guilty on all 3 counts, which was adequate and appropriate. And as many people will say, that was just kind of the form of accountability. It's not exactly justice in the sense that George Floyd will never be walking around on this earth again. But for, historically speaking, for a lot of cases, and even cases that have happened since the trial, we still find ourselves in Black America under the heel of police brutality, and even extending from there into systemic racism issues as it relates to how one thrives in this country. So I kind of want to jump into my own philosophy, as it were, and I want to take you on a little bit of a journey. For me personally, whenever I am talking about the issue of race, one of the things that I absolutely like to start with is our human aspect. There are some things that I may say that may sound a little shocking, so I just want you to be aware that it is not with an ill intent that I say these things, but I want it to be something that is thought-provoking and profound, something that you can mull over in your brain to just kind of consider and gauge for yourself how you might feel or what thoughts might come up into your mind, you know, from your soul, from your body, and how that information informs your brain and how you may view and perceive the world around you. So again, starting with this very first point of being human, I want you to kind of close your eyes in a way and imagine that every single person walking around on planet Earth, all of us came from a womb, correct? So if the first question is, am I a human? Sounds like a stupid question, but when you ask yourself that question, we usually regard anyone that is not outside, that is not born from a womb or comes from an outside place, you're considered an alien. So we consider human beings to be anyone that comes to planet Earth through the womb of their mother, through a female womb. With your eyes closed, I want you to consider that everyone on this planet, everyone walking around you, everyone in your household and your family members are from the species that we call human. The reason I'm delineating that so much is because from that point, we start to add certain attributes and characteristics and things to ourselves, which is completely fine and wonderful. But from the human aspect, you immediately begin to think, you know, as your eyes are closed, you begin to imagine, yes, I am a human being. I have two eyes. I have a nose. I have a mouth. I have ears. I have arms. I have legs. I have heart. And that heart is beating and it is supplying you and your body with the things that you need. There's nothing that you have to do to make your heart beat. When you were born, that was something that automatically began to take place for you. It wasn't something that you had to pay for. It wasn't something that you had to learn about in terms of, you know, a function like pumping a water pump, you know, or turning a faucet, or, you know, cooking a meal wasn't something that you had to learn about. It's something that just is. So moving on from that point, then you start to add to your humanness the layer that represents your background. And none of us have the exact same background. So that begins to be one of the initial points that kind of separates us out and makes us different. And when you consider your background, most of us don't consider, oh, this is bad or that's bad. You know, my background is bad. Because as a child, a helpless child, you really don't have much say in what your background is, who your parents are, the place that you were born and raised. You don't have a choice in those things. That's something that you were again born into. But as a result of being born into that particular place or that particular family, there are absolutely at that point certain things that you begin to learn, whether consciously or unconsciously. So I want you to, again, keep that within the framework of being human. We're all the same. We all come from a womb. We all have heart. But once we start to add our background into it, then it becomes an issue of, how am I different? It is at that point that I want you to consider the differences of every other person on the planet. I don't mean that in a checklist kind of way. I just mean to kind of think about it. Your sister may be different from you, even though you're born from the same womb. And I very much have that experience. And I'll touch upon you know, some of the internal differences here in a moment. But when you're born into a family, even your siblings next to you, if you have them, can be very different from you. Someone can be born with blonde hair and another person can be born with brunette hair. Someone may be born with blue eyes and another person may be born with brown eyes. But because you come from the family structure of, you know, being born from your mother's womb, you immediately have a natural affinity or a natural camaraderie. There's a common thread that you have with that individual just because you're born from the same womb. Now, I'm going to pause here in the differences of backgrounds and just say this. Again, it's shocking to some of you, but please try and accept this as a truth. Every human being walking around on planet Earth, every human walking around on planet Earth, sprang from a person of color. If you're thinking about your Bible, you know that the Garden of Eden is more so located in Africa, in the northern part of Africa. And so from that Adam and Eve experiences and the different genealogies that are listed in the Bible and all the people that were born from Adam and Eve, if you believe that they are the first people on earth, there starts to become the differences because there is a migration. Some people migrated south in Africa. Some people migrated north of Africa to other countries and even other continents. And so, as it relates to America, we know all too well the story of the indigenous people, Indians, who were already present on this continent of America, United States. And from there, the story starts to take form in that there were people who came to Africa and transported Africans to America against their will, if I could just say it in very lightly, against their will, versus other countries, other regions, other people who heard about America. It's a really great place. I hear there are a lot of jobs. I hear you can make money. I hear you can do this. I hear you can do that. I think I'm going to go. And they jump on a boat and they come to America of their own free will. Those that who have been brought to America against their will became slaves, those Africans. And so the American story begins. The African American story begins. And a part, again, that we want to insert as I go back to what I was saying a moment ago is that when we were captured away from Africa, we did not bring our language with us many times. We did not bring family connections with us many times. We suffered, illnesses and sick and disease and, things from the long ride. And so when we get here, we're not completely intact. We don't have everything that we know and are used to. In some cases, the family structure and that common thread that I just mentioned a moment ago is broken or torn, sometimes beyond repair. So I just want you to hold that in your mind again as I go back to the conversation about our background. Within one's background, you have, mom, dad, grandma, grandpa, whatever familial experience you were raised in, where you are now subjected as a helpless, naive, unknowing child into the culture of whatever those people who were here before you, what their experiences were, what their knowledge is, what their beliefs are, what their culture is. And just to get a little more closer to the racial issue, let's say grandpa was a racist and he was raised in the South, and he, came from a family that had slaves or just held the common belief that certain people were inferior to him or her, were inferior to grandpa. And so grandpa doesn't think he's a racist, but he may tell a joke or he makes an offhanded comment. You, as a helpless child, may just be in another room playing and overhear this. You, as an individual, may hear, what's being said, but you don't have a working knowledge yet of what that even means because you're a child. You're playing with your doll. You're playing with your truck. It doesn't mean anything to you. So at this point is where I want to insert that racism absolutely is a learned behavior. Again, this is not necessarily touching the level of systemic racism yet, but just as an individual, whatever your exposure may have been, that immediately seeps down into your subconscious mind because it's not something that you need on a daily basis. You don't go make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich in your kitchen and say, oh, because I'm racist, my jelly should only go here or it should only go on this side of the bread. No one thinks like that. But because of experiences that you've had, things that make you laugh, things that make you cry, things that make you think, our ears do not have a shut-off valve. And the only way our eyes work is to open and close them. So as it relates to the function of our mind, our subconscious mind, our brain, our humanness, there are things, whether we want them to or not, there are things that seep into our mind and our being, and they flow down into our subconscious level. And when I think of the subconscious level, I want you to think of an iceberg or think of the movie Titanic. An iceberg, as you know, thinking of the surface of the water, the part that you can see that's above the water is the danger, so to speak, that one has to avoid when maneuvering toward that particular iceberg. What is not seen is the iceberg as it exists below the water. And that could be much huger, that's not a word, much larger than the iceberg that you see at the top. The bottom could be immensely bigger than what you see above the water. And so this part that exists below the water is kind of what's considered your subconscious mind, if you're not familiar with that. And so consciously, there are things that we learn. Oh, I learned how to write, or I learned how to ride a bike, I learned how to drive, etc. But subconsciously, how does that experience or that thing that you learned or that thing that absorbed into you, how does it fit into that larger mass, that unspoken part of you? So this is the larger portion that we want you to consider even as we move forward in this discussion. First, the matter of being human. Second, the matter of your background, okay? Now moving forward from there, then we start to go to school. We may move to a different location from where we're born, or we become adults at some point and we move away from our immediate family to start our own family, what have you. This is at the point where a lot of people get caught up and where, societally speaking, we have a lot of murky water. Because you sitting here looking at this video, you know absolutely nothing about me until I tell you, correct? The most obvious thing about me is my skin tone. And so for racism, that many times is the initial point, because people feel, ugh, look at him, let me move on the other side of the street. Or look at him, he reminds me of this bad experience that I had, or whatever. Racism is initially about having a prejudiced thought or action based on a person's skin color, but that's not the only thing racism is. It's just the most immediate thing that a person sees. Now, I have to insert this part here. There are people who say, well, I don't see color, which is a complete lie. And I have to attack it that way because I have to implore anyone who says that or thinks that to stop doing that, because obviously you see color. If you look at this shirt that I'm wearing, if you're not colorblind, most people will say it's blue. If you're looking really closely, some people might say, well, it's plaid, because you see the stripes and the pattern inside of my shirt. So in fact, you do see color. And the reason I'm bringing this point up is because it's a matter of embracing what you see as opposed to repelling what you see. That's the most immediate difference. Again, human, you can look at me and you know that I'm human. You have no idea what my background is, but you know it's not yours. And as much as you might like to judge me on that, you don't know what my background is because I haven't told you. So then the most obvious thing is my appearance. The fact that I'm a brown-skinned individual. Now, let's go back to background for just a second. I am the oldest in my family. I have a younger brother. I had a younger brother. And I have had a younger sister. My sister is my half sister. She's more my complexion, and she's actually a little bit darker, just a smidge darker than me. But my brother is a complete different color from me. My brother is the color of my hand, born from the same mother, born from the same father. His complexion is much lighter than mine. Okay? Just to give you that difference. This is me. This is my brother. So born from the same mother. So again, that background and your family makeup and all of that absolutely plays a part. So if you don't have that experience like I do, where your brother or sister is much darker than you or much lighter than you, then to you, it's all the same. This is me, this is my, this is me, this is my brother. What's the big deal? So, even just on a visual level, there may not be in your world any kind of physical difference. Everyone around you is white, or everyone around you is Latino, or everyone around you is Asian, or what have you. But remember, human first. Second comes our background. And then third is the thing that we're starting to talk about now. And so you add culture and education and things like that into your experience. If you're Asian, your Asian culture influences how you perceive things or how you do things. And as we, again, start to grow, become adults, become educated, take on jobs, etc., you may be a college educated person. You may be someone who learned certain skills. My family are farmers, my family are doctors, etc. At that point is when we start to add these attributes to ourselves. I'm such and such PhD. I am such and such a person from Ireland. I am such and such a person who, grew up poor, or I grew up wealthy. There's different things that we begin to add to ourselves. Now, as I start to in this particular video. Again, I just want to assert to you that even me, the speaker of this video, I haven't even told you my name. So go ahead and guess what that is. I haven't told you anything about my background. I haven't told you anything about my education or my culture. All you have is my face and my voice. And so if we are tackling the issue of racism, and all these other societal issues that we're experiencing right now today, you may be able to formulate a question or two. You may be able to formulate an opinion or two just based on what I've said up until this point, the very few facts that you know about me. And if you take a moment and just kind of think about what that is, what are the facts that I've told you? Obviously, number one, I'm Black or African-American, whichever you choose. And so as you look at the human aspect and look at the obvious aspects of my life, I haven't told you any personal stories really, other than the fact that my brother looks a little different than me. It was never an issue. It was never a big deal. I've never looked at my brother and say, oh, I wish I looked like him. Never. Why? Why would I? He's my brother. So when you start to formulate your questions and opinion, well, maybe his name is Billy, or, maybe his name is Andre, just whatever it is that you formulated in your mind at this point. If you want to write it down, that would be very powerful, because it will inform you for the next video to come as I start to reveal a little bit more about myself. And it will help you to see consciously and subconsciously if there are things that you have allowed to settle within your personality or your everyday life or your function, that color, or what's the word I want to use? Influence, that help you determine whether or not the person in front of you, the human being in front of you, is something that's worthwhile, or is this something, that, again, using the kind of the example that I said earlier, whether it's something you can embrace or whether it's something that repels you. Okay? So if you want to write these things down, what do you think my name is? How old do you think I am? Where do you think I'm from? What do you think is my level of education? Am I in fact a human, or am I an alien? What does my appearance make you feel or make you think? Now, you've heard me speak, so that will certainly challenge, some of your experiences. Well, other Black people I know may do this, or other Black people I know may do that. They may say this, they may say that. This has been my experience as it relates to Black people. And on a surface level, a lot of that is not wrong. But in society today, as it relates to these racial issues, it is vitally important that you know and understand that Black people do not have a problem with being Black. As I said before, everyone walking on this planet sprang from a person of color. So those people that think, well, Black people hate white people, largely we don't. I'm not saying that couldn't be true, but I think Black people in general see other white people as just an extension of who we are. You're just a lighter shade of who we are. And as I get ready to end this video again, I'll bring genetics into it. If you have, two Black people, you could get a child that's as light as my hand, as light as my brother in my description, or even albino. There are a lot of Black people walking around you right now today who could pass for white, but they're Black. They came from two Black parents or what have you. On the flip side, if you take two white people and you have a child, two white people can never, ever, ever, ever produce a Black child, especially one that looks like me. And so genetics kind of supports some of what I said a moment ago. Every single person walking around on planet Earth sprang from a person of color. It's just that there was a change because of migration, weather, sun exposure, etc. Black people have a little bit more melanin, where white people have a little less melanin. So as it relates to the idea of humanness moving forward from that point, you have to consider that everyone is not going to be the same as you. It's just absolutely impossible. The only thing that you have in common with another person is your humanity. I am not saying that to disqualify culture at all whatsoever, in no way, shape, or form, because culture is extremely, 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 extremely important to who the individual is. But I need you to grapple with the idea that there are people in this world who have an experience, who have life, they have existence, and it does not fit within the framework of what you may consider to be life, existence, happiness, sadness, culture, work. None of it may not ever fit into your experience, but it doesn't mean you shouldn't embrace it. If you are repelled, that begins to be the issue. And it begins to be the very, very small sprout of racism that exists in a human being. You may not be, quote unquote, a racist, but you may be on the path towards racism because you have a little bit of an issue with regarding someone who's outside of yourself, someone who does not have what you have, someone that doesn't come from where you come from. Human first, and then the other things follow. And when you start adding those attributes to yourself, if you're a doctor, if you're a lawyer, if you're an astrophysicist, whatever, marine biologist, whatever it is, that makes you feel important about you. We certainly don't want to discredit those things, but I want to challenge you to go all the way back to human and just think about some of the things that I've said up until this point. So I'll conclude this particular video, and I do want to do several of them. So if you happen to find this video, hopefully on YouTube, you can share this video on your social media, or share this with other people that you know, and actually look for videos to follow. If it has been helpful to you, or if there's any questions or comments that you may have, absolutely feel free to reach out and let me know what you're thinking and feeling. If there's any questions I can answer. You should be able to do that in the comment section below the video if you find this on YouTube. Or if you like, I'll give you my email address and I'll spell it for you so that you can contact me directly. And I'm absolutely up for whatever challenge you may want to present, because I know that some of the information and things that I said may be kind of shocking to you. It may not be something you've ever heard before, but it is something that I want you to consider and realize that there is another perspective to what you already know. We're just basically adding to what you know. And again, as a final note, the name of my book is White Fragility and the Subconscious Mind, which you can find available on Amazon.com. And so with closing, my email address is, if you're ready for it, here we go. D as in doorknob, U as in uncle, GLAI, GLAS. So that I'll spell that again. DUGLAI, GLAS at AOL.com. It's a nickname that my mom gave to me when I was very young. So there again, you know, another little thing about me. It's pronounced Douglas. So I'll spell that again. DUGLAI, GLAS at AOL.com. And I would absolutely love to hear from you and hear your comments, your questions as we prepare for the next video. If there's something that I can say or do to help bring some of this to light for you. If you have a question about the book, whatever it is, feel free to share. And I will look forward to speaking with you all the next time. Thank you for watching this video. I really appreciate you all. Hope you're having a great day. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.